This screencast is about shifting the supply curve. In this screencast, you will know the determinants of supply. You'll also understand the difference between a change in supply versus a change in quantity supplied. And we'll also understand how a change in supply causes a change in quantity demanded. When we talk about supply determinants, we talk about things that shift the supply curve. In the previous screencast where we talked about a change in quantity supplied, we talked about how a change in price causes a movement along the supply curve. So, for example, if the equilibrium price increased, you would find that it would hit the supply curve up here, which would cause an increase in the quantity supplied. When we talk about supply determinants, there isn't a change in the price of the good, but rather there's a change in the things that make up the actual supply of that product. So when we talk about the determinants of supply, we're talking about a change in supply. There are 6 determinants of supply. Together they make up #Tiger. If you remember with previous screencasts for determinants of demand, I had given the hashtag #IPET, and now we have #Tiger. So let's go through these different determinants of supply. For the hashtag, that stands for the number of producers or the number of suppliers. If you have a shop that opens up, that's going to increase the supply or increase the number of producers. Technology. Technology is the process of how things are made, the efficiency, if you will. The I is for input or resource prices. Think about our resources: land, labor, capital. Labor gets used a lot with wages. Those can change. And also with capital. The price of the goods that go into making the product, those are going to impact then the amount that can be produced. The G is for government regulations, and here we're dealing with taxes, quotas, and subsidies. The E is for expectations of future. As the supplier, if I expect that in the future the price of my product is going to go up, maybe it'll be because in the future there'll be an increase in the demand, well then now I'm going to decrease my supply and wait. So the price hasn't changed yet, but I'll decrease my supply, and then I'll wait till the future when that price has gone up, and I'll increase my quantity supplied. And the last one here is for related prices of other goods they produce. So if I, for example, am a footwear producer, and we've got here the market for shoes. Let's say that it's wintertime, and with that there's an increase in the demand for boots. And so if there's an increase in the demand for boots, well, that's going to cause the price to go up for the boots, and that'll also cause a change in the quantity supplied of the boots. It'll increase them. Well, I'm going to pick and choose my battles here, and I'm going to focus then more on the boots industry, and I am going to cut back then on the amount of shoes that is made. When there is a decrease in the supply of the shoes, that is going to be a shift to the left of the supply curve. Again, arrows, directional arrows are really important. I have the labeling for the second curve here with S2. And so now when I show the change in the price, which goes up because of a decrease in supply, I'm going to follow along with the 2 subscript and put that as a P2 there. And then I will also have a decrease in the quantity, and so that will be labeled here with a Q2. So when there's a decrease in supply, you have an increase in the price, and you have a decrease in the quantity. When we talk about some of these determinants, the supply curve will always shift in a certain way. So take, for example, technology. Technology deals with the efficiency of the production, and when there's an increase in technology, because of that efficiency, that will cause an increase in the supply. Another one is with the government regulations. Taxes will always decrease supply. Taxes is a cost that's a burden or a cost that's placed on the producer, and so as a result, that will make it more expensive to be able to produce it, and so the supply will decrease. Quotas. Quotas are limitations on how much can be produced. Quotas will always decrease the supply. And then you have the subsidies. With subsidies, it's the opposite of a tax. Instead of the government taking money from producers, they're actually giving money to producers. And so subsidies will always increase the supply. It's always good to remember the direction of these as you are going through the different determinants. A change in supply causes a change in quantity demanded. Because when you look at this graph here, when we talk about a change in quantity demanded, that's a movement along the demand curve. And what you can see here is that when supply decreased, you had an increase in the price, which causes this leftward movement along the demand curve, or a decrease in the quantity demanded. So when you're looking at the relationships here, you want to be able to see how the change of the quantity demanded goes in the same direction as the supply curve. We learned about this earlier about how a shifting of one curve, the demand curve, caused a change in quantity supplied. Well, the same is true when you change the supply curve. It causes a change in the quantity demanded.